Ian McKelvey.
Move that the question be now put.
I'm not going to take it now. I'm going to make it clear why. I have been listening to this debate from outside the House. I've been listening to it now. The purpose of a committee stage debate is for the principles accepted in the second reading to be checked against the technical details of the bill. An important part of that, from my perspective, is the ability for members to have an interchange with the Minister in charge of the bill and to ask questions. Now, clearly, if the government declines to take part in that, it won't go on forever, but I want to reiterate the message that I have previously given to the House, and that is that closures are more likely to be accepted in a shorter time period if ministers have engaged in a positive manner to non-political technical questions. Grant Robertson.
Mr Chair, and this is a genuine question, and it's been asked not just by me but by other members. So I'll just finish the point I was making before the end of that last call, which is that there is a significant change here in the way in which the Commissioner for IRD can decide if there should be some kind of relief from penalties. That in principle sounds fine on the side of the House. What we are now trying to endeavour to understand is what is the meaning of that and what is the extent of that. So firstly, we've got the change from the question of efficient and inefficient resources through to the inefficient use of resources through to the question of serious hardship. And there is a second part, Mr Chair, which also requires some clarification, that it would be fair and reasonable to grant relief, or that it would be fair and reasonable to grant relief. Now that's actually quite a different matter from the question of serious hardship. So you've now got and this is the concern raised by one of my colleagues, that we now have effectively quite a subjective test around what is fair and reasonable and also what is serious hardship. So I would like a member of the government to be able to get up and describe to this House, for instance, why the word serious appears in there rather than just the word hardship. Because as I say, I don't think any member of this House on either side would be wanting to pass legislation that effectively forced hardship upon children. The second point, Mr Chair, I want to make around this change is the focus on the role of the Commissioner in doing this and what resources and what information the Commissioner uses to make these decisions. Because bear in mind, we've moved from something that is within the Commissioner's purview, the question of the efficient use of resources, to something that is much more now about the family. It's about the circumstances of that family. And what I'm not clear from, and I don't think that the government should necessarily have to put this in the law, but what I'm not clear from the lack of response from the government is what information will the Commissioner be using, what access to information will the Commissioner have, will they be enabled to effectively investigate and work with those families? Because that's actually been one of the criticisms of child support up to now, is that just applying a very mechanistic criteria has meant that you miss out on a lot of the things. My colleague David Cunliffe was mentioning before what happens when you've got a blended family, and that we haven't in the past taken into account the change in circumstances. Good, that's good. But what we don't know with such a significant change in the criteria for this is exactly what information will be used. How will the Commissioner go about their jobs? And I think it's important for this House to be able to understand that. We appreciate the idea here that this will help reduce the amount of owed debt from penalties. 75% of the $3 billion debt is penalties. We can all see the penalty regime's not working because people aren't actually paying it back. Let's get a fairer system in place. Let's give the Commissioner for Inland Revenue some more tools in order to be able to do that. But I'm not clear today, as a responsible member of this Parliament, about exactly how the Commissioner for IRD will go about implementing this, what information she will have, what tools will be at her disposal, and then I'm not confident about the definitions that have been put in place. I do not want to stand up in my constituency after this when there are already enough concerns about the child support regime and to be so unclear. Now, Mr Chair, we are not, I predict, in a Nostradamus-like way, going to get a detailed response to this matter from members opposite. And the National Party needs to ask itself if it's going to bring legislation to this House that makes major changes to the way child support works, that they're not prepared to back it. What does that mean? Does that mean they're really committed to these changes? Does that mean they actually want to see a fairer system? Or is it once again another one of those papering over the cracks? So, Mr Chair, I offer the opportunity now to the National Party to stand up and defend this legislation, define what these terms mean, and reassure New Zealanders that this will still be a fair system.
Mr Chair. Clayton Cosgrove.